When you work on your business, not in your business, I want you to ask yourself this question. In my personal life, in my relationships, in my health, in my finances, and in my business, what am I doing that I think I should be doing that I don't necessarily need to be doing? I think you'll be surprised.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
You all know, because I've told you here, that we recently became empty nesters. So my wife and I recently said goodbye, get out the door, kicked his butt as he walked out to our last son. We had 4 children. Oldest is a daughter, 3 other boys, and the last one's 18, and he is off on his own as of a couple of months ago. And it's changed a lot of things in our lives. One of them, and it wasn't that particular thing that caused my wife to want to start a business. In fact, she's actually started the business a couple of years ago, even before he left, but definitely ramping things up since this individual, our lovely baby boy, walked out the door. Recently had a talk with my wife. It was an interesting discussion. It's been fun, by the way, to be a part of her growing business, to share with her some things that have worked for me over the years, some things that have not worked for me over the years. It's given us a chance to reconnect as empty nesters. Obviously we connect a lot of different ways as a couple, but we recently, in fact, got back from Thailand, thus the shirt today. 2 weeks in Thailand, folks, and I made money every single day that I was there. Absolutely lovely experience. But we celebrated our 30th wedding anniversary in Thailand, and it was absolutely a fabulous experience. If you've not been, by the way, first time in Asia for both of us, and I don't think we could have picked a better country to introduce ourselves to that continent. But lots of different ways that we connect. But one of the things that we connect on frequently is business. It's what we're both involved in. We're both building our businesses, enjoying time in our businesses. And for her, a lot of this is new. Well, recently, she and I had a talk. Her business, by the way, is very similar to my coaching business. A very different subject, but very similar, information marketing and one-on-one coaching and that kind of thing. And so, a lot of the things that have worked for me, I share with her and say, this has worked and you should do this, right? And she's done those things. And they've not worked the same way. And so we had this discussion the other day, and it was very eye-opening for me, because I guess you kind of think as a human being, right, that if it worked before, it will work again. Now, first of all, I grew my business, my coaching business 15 years ago. Okay. So life has changed just a little bit in that time period. Since 2010 is when the Appraiser Coach came on board. And so things are different, right? But some of the things that worked for me are not necessarily working for her. She's a different person, different personality. The world has changed. Technology has changed, right? And one of the things that she said to me really struck me. And it actually is a phrase that I heard recently in a mastermind group. We were at a mastermind, and an individual was talking about something. I'll keep it confidential. And somebody said, you need to eliminate the shoulds. You need to eliminate the shoulds. Let that sink in for just a second. Right? Why do we do the things that we do? Why do we do so often things that we don't necessarily want to do or that are not really working, but we keep doing them because we quote unquote should do them? I've got a mentor, has been my mentor for, longer than the Appraiser Coach. He's actually the individual that helped me to get started coaching. And I was recently hanging out with him, and he said the same thing. He said, we've got to get rid of the shoulds in our lives. I want to bring that home just a little bit after the break, but I want it to sink in. And then I want to tell you about a couple of great companies out there. One of them, of course, is Working RE Magazine. Working RE out of San Diego loves appraisers. They get it when it comes to the industry that you have decided to be a part of. And they are incredible. And it's free, by the way, to get their magazine quarterly and to get the, couple of times a week updates. You need to be getting those updates, folks, because you need to stay informed as to what's going on in your world, the appraisal world. It's workingre.com is where you can find out more. Again, workingre.com. All right, folks, talk about shoulds, right? We should be supporting our adjustment, but that doesn't mean that we have to keep doing it the way we've always done it. How about something that's easier and better? I know that sounds like a dichotomy. People think that if it's more simple, that you must be cutting corners, right? You must not be doing it right. I hear this a lot with AI, right? Somehow AI is cheating. Well, it could be, right? But it depends on how you use it. Folks, there are tools out there that can help appraisers to do things faster and better, right? Higher quality and quantity is possible. One of those tools is TrueTracks. TrueTracks will allow you to define your market area better. It will allow you to choose comparables better. It will allow you to support adjustments better. Let that sink in for just a second. We should be supporting our adjustments. How we do it can be better than what we're doing now. Check them out by going to their website. It's TrueTracks, and they can be found at truefootage.tech/tools. Again, truefootage.tech/tools. And by the way, if you use Appraiser Coach, one word, capital A, capital C, Appraiser Coach at checkout, you can get TrueTracks for free for 6 weeks. That's right, 6 weeks for free. Appraiser Coach, one word, capital A, capital C. All right, folks, welcome back to the program. Dustin Harris hanging out with you and sharing with you some insights on your life, your business, what you do on a day-to-day basis. I want you to pause just for a second and just ask yourself this question. How much of what you do on a daily basis is not because you want to, not because it makes your life better, but because you should? Now, that's going to hurt some, right? Because when you start to realize that a lot of time, a lot of money sometimes, a lot of effort, blood, sweat, and tears, as my dad used to say, a lot of the blood, sweat, and tears that you put into things, folks, I don't know that is effective. I don't know that it's efficient. I don't know if it's doing the things that you think it's doing. I'll give you an example. I recently talked to an individual who a couple of years ago, this is a mastermind student, mastermind client. And a couple of years ago, when he first started with the mastermind, he basically had zero private work. He was doing, pretty much 98% or 100%, AMC work. But he wanted to do more private work. So he dove headfirst, literally, well, not literally, but figuratively into the pool of private work. And he did so through networking. Okay. That was his big push, right? It wasn't just speaking in front of realtor groups. It was getting out to, BNI groups. It was getting out to Rotary groups. It was getting out to places where attorneys gather and spending a lot of time in that world. And folks, it absolutely transformed. I don't remember the numbers, but within a couple of months, he went from pretty much zero private work to about 30% of his business. I know. Crazy, right? The number was absolute. The time that he came to the mastermind and then came to the mastermind again, 3 months, right? We meet every quarter, and we could not believe the change in his business. Okay. Now, he continued to do that for a while. If it worked before, it must work after. Recently had a conversation with him. He came to one of our masterminds recently, and he had switched gears. And I pulled him aside and I said, I'm curious why. And he said, because I was continuing to network because I thought that's what I should do. And it wasn't working anymore, right? It was different this time, right? Remember last episode, if you caught last episode of the Appraiser Coach podcast, I talked about Don't keep trying harder, try different, right? And he started to do things differently. Instead of networking and focusing on networking, he started focusing on other marketing tactics. And by the way, but it was working better than the marketing side, right? He was growing his business beyond just the 30% private work. This is an example, folks, of the things that we do because we think we should do them. Now, don't get me wrong. As we close up today, let me just say this, right? There are things that we should do, okay? We should be nice to our spouse. We should exercise regularly. We should eat well. We should get recreation. There's things that we should do. We should be becoming better appraisers. We should be marketing, right? But the way that we go about doing those things, I don't know, folks. I think we need to be careful, right? Homework assignment. You ready? Action item. This week, when you work on your business, not in your business, and I know you're doing that every single week, right? We all are, right? This week, when you have that session, when you work on your business, not in your business, I want you to ask yourself this question. In my personal life, in my relationships, in my health, in my finances, and in my business, what am I doing that I think I should be doing that I don't necessarily need to be doing? I think you'll be surprised. You're welcome. By the way, speaking of masterminds, we have openings right now for our masterminds coming up. One of them is going to be, I'm not sure when this is going to air, but I think I'm ahead of it, right? In April, the ACTS conference is going to be in Seattle, and our mastermind happens to be in the exact same hotel 2 days before ACTS. So Saturday and Sunday, we're going to be meeting. I would love to have you as my special guest. Reach out to me, the coach at TheAppraiserCoach.com, if you want to join us at the next mastermind, if you're going to the ACTS conference. We'll see you there.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit TheAppraiserCoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.